So, hello, my friends, and welcome to What's Up. I'm John Petersen from the Arlington Institute, and we come to you every couple of weeks like this. Greg, Braden, and I have an unstructured, unplanned conversation for a half an hour about whatever comes to mind. And so, hi, Greg, and welcome.
Hey, John, it's good to see you. I've been out of the country for about 3 weeks. We have missed a couple of these conversations, and I've missed having them. I've missed you, and I've missed connecting with our community. So I'm excited and happy to be with you today, and happy to have this conversation.
Yeah, well, good. So, what's on your mind? What's
You
up?
know, John, I mean, there's so many things that I now, after traveling in Europe for 3 weeks, in the Middle East for 3 weeks, I've got topics that will cover our what's up for
Yeah.
the next well into 23. But I think one thing that really stood out to me, John, and I'm very passionate about this, is I'm seeing how universal the demonization of carbon dioxide has become on the global stage.
Mm,
And I'm concerned because of what it does to us socially, for one thing, but also humans tend to go to extremes.
yeah.
And when the media harps upon the dangers and demonizes carbon in general and carbon dioxide specifically, the extreme is that all carbon dioxide is bad. And if we were to reduce the carbon dioxide on our planet the way that our officials would like for us to, it literally is a death pact
Yeah.
for our planet. But the thing that really stood out to me, John, this is important for young people. Young people are very vulnerable to ideas that are put forth, for example, by their college professors. And many young people still revere mainstream media. If they see something on television, it holds an air of authority for them.
Yeah.
Many of us of our age now have come to recognize that just because it's on TV,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it's true. But a lot of young people don't. So what I'm seeing, John, the danger, it's one thing to say, okay, we need to cut back on greenhouse gases, and there's all kinds of reasons for that and ways to do that. But now this is being used for social engineering. And it literally it's dividing families, but it is shredding communities. What I'd like to do, John, can I just for a moment, can I share the screen?
Yeah, sure. Sure you can.
And we've never done this. It's not PowerPoint. I'm just going to bring up an image here. Let me see if it allows me to do this. And it allows me to do this. Are you seeing anything on your screen?
Yeah, I can see it. Mm-hmm.
All right, good. So what this is, I'm going to move this around a little bit. It's something you don't see very often, is carbon dioxide levels in geologic history. And what you're seeing on the far right is today. Now, our levels, are they higher than they have been in the last 100 years? Yes, they are. We're being led to believe that they have never been higher, that Earth is going to be destroyed if they are any higher. And we're being led to believe that these are driving temperatures higher than they've ever been, both of which are not true. So first of all, you can see carbon dioxide levels have been much higher. This is the black line you're seeing.
Right.
And I'm not sure if I'm moving our little pictures around, are you seeing that on your screen?
No, nothing's moving.
Okay, good. So I don't know if I'm blocking the image or not. But if you're looking, I mean, our carbon dioxide levels are actually very low compared to where they have been in geologic history.
Sure.
We go back into the Triassic period, for example. It's the purple right there between 200 and 250 million years. You can see it was much higher. The Devonian period to the far left. One of the most, probably the best known eras in our past or periods is the Cretaceous period, right there.
Right, yeah,
it's in the green, 100 million years. So I want just to use this as an example. Those carbon dioxide levels were over 3 times higher than they are right now. They were up a little over 800, almost 1,000 parts per million for parts of that. What was the Cretaceous period like? It was an extreme greening on the earth. Forests emerged and new forms of life, a lot of flowering plants, for example, and large mammals. But look at this, when those CO2 levels dropped drastically, brought an end to the Cretaceous. And this is the danger, John, a lot of people aren't talking about. If Earth CO2 levels drop below 184 parts per million, that seems to be the threshold where we're in trouble, because the forests of the Earth thrive on the CO2. We cut that CO2. If CO2 drops to those levels, we are actually cutting off the very life force that is providing the oxygen on the planet. So we don't want to do that. And young people are not getting that message at all.
There's a couple of things that need to be said about this. First of all, then this kind of information is extracted from the ice corings in the Bloodstock in Antarctica and then in Greenland.
Right.
If all of the information that they extracted was on this graph, what you would see is that the temperatures increase or decrease somewhere typically about 800 years before this carbon dioxide changes.
Right.
And what that means is the carbon dioxide does not drive the change. It is the response from the temperature change. And so, I mean, and you know this. And so what you've got to really do is start to say, well, what causes the temperature to change? And that leads you to the sun in all, all intelligent kind of assessment. You go to the sun because the sun is the biggest thing around here that influences the climate, and so you find out that there are changes in the sun, different sunspot cycles and other such things that all correlate with the temperature changes, which then turns into the CO2 changes. And so the whole notion that CO2 is the thing that's driving this is all fallacious, and it's and dangerous, as you've suggested, because the it's fundamental to who we are. We're all carbon-based. This is carbon-based life. And in really practical terms, as you also know, is that if you want to really get your greenhouse to really produce a whole lot more plants, what you got to do is put carbon dioxide inside and they'll just flourish. And that's the way that happens. Now, when I see all this and I hear what you talk about, what I think about is saying that what we've got is a generation of kids who don't know how to think. That all they know how to do is listen to and repeat they've been told. They're like foot soldiers, right, in the military that have just, you stand them up and tell them, you just do what I tell you to do, and I don't want you to think about this. And which is the way some people in the military operate. And Rudolf Steiner, interestingly enough, had started these old Waldorf schools, which were all about trying to teach kids how to think, so that you didn't just buy whatever was told you, and certainly by the authorities in this case, and that you could think for yourself and come to your own conclusions. And that's what really needs to happen here. Is because if people if you and I have both been in conversations with people who can't think, right? And they think they know what they're talking about, and you can't get them off the dime, and they can't see any world bigger than what they've been told.
I have been on committees as recently as this spring of 2022, with young people who are doing exactly what you're saying. They've been conditioned to simply recite the data. They don't even question where the data comes from. And so when I show them a chart like this, their question, it blows their mind. They're saying, how come we've never seen this before? And where did this come from? And why didn't we see this when we were in school? and these are some young people in school. Some of them are young people. When I say young, I'm talking about 30s,
Yeah.
maybe 40s, who are working with the UN. And what they're saying is, how come this isn't what the UN climate panel is telling us? And what I can show them is how that data, it's like a day on the stock market, John. Every day on the stock market, if you go down to a 60-second interval on the stock market, the market is rising and falling in that 60 seconds. And then you expand that to 5 minutes and 10 minutes and an hour in a day. If you zero in on 30 of those seconds, what you'll see, it looks like the market is in a downtrend. But then you look at the big picture, it's in the downtrend for 30 seconds of an uptrend. And the same thing is happening with the CO2 levels.
Yeah.
Same thing is happening with climate. So the data has been cherry picked, and we all know the people that did that in our memorable.
And more than that, it's been manipulated because
well, this
it.
is where I'm going with this, because then the next question that these people asked me, they said, well, what about the models? What about the models that show us life is going to end in 12 years and all this?
Right.
It's so what a lot of people don't realize, the models are based upon what are called feedback loops. Sure. And these feedback loops are very imprecise. In other words, if you begin to change the temperature of the oceans and the salinity of the oceans, their ability to absorb and release heat begins to change. And those are feedback loops. So here's where it gets really interesting, John. A model is supposed to predict what will happen. And if it's a good model, once that time passed, you should be able to go in and plug in the data for what already happened.
Yeah, sure.
So the model will show you, and right now, even if you plug in the data for the recent history of the climate, the models cannot show us what already happened. The models are flawed. So this is where but the reason this is important, John, and 2023 is coming up very, very soon now. So much of our society and social engineering and economy and financial system and the way we travel and what we do to create our living is based on a false narrative driven by cherry-picked data from these climate models and the people that are doing it. For example, in the UN, of the number of scientists they are scientists. However, there's a conflict of interest. They are working for organizations and institutions beholden to the funding that supports them cherry picking the data.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Nice to have you back.
I look forward to our next.
For those of you who are watching, we appreciate you being with us, and we hope that you'll look at the other kind of things that we do at the Arlington Institute. You can find out all the added information at arlingtoninstitute.org. And you will particularly like Quartet, I'm sure, where Greg and I and a couple of our friends hold forth for about an hour on some deep and important kind of subject. And so we'll be back in a couple of weeks. And thanks so much. Thanks, Greg. Take care.
Thanks so much, John.